Hi everyone, it's me again. Squish Gang is present, of course, featuring Angry Octopus, because today I feel the need to address the Jimmy Snow I Messed Up video, given the fact that it appears that I was almost one of the heavy hitters in regards to this situation, seeing as my video got over 15,000 views as of the time recording this, and the note that he made about small creators. So we're going to get in first into what aspects of Rhetoric kind of relate to the fact that he had the problems from his original video. I want to explain with aspects of Rhetoric and techniques as to what the actual problem was, because he seems to have negated a lot of that and kind of only focused on the negative. I want to start with how we often hear and see things that we don't want. And there's a term in Rhetoric called pharmacon, which means that speech is addictive. And once you fall into a certain pattern of speech or hearing a certain speech that you've kind of resonated with or really, really disliked, then you get addicted to thinking about it and interacting with it. An example of this could be responding to hate comments and getting too indulged in hate comments. Cicero's Rhetoric talks about how visuals engrave themselves on the mind. So Jimmy seeing these numbers, the red social blade, all of these different reactions with people, and seeing these videos coming up can engrave itself into the mind as the spoken word leaves trace on the psyche. So when he's talking about, this is why I fully believe the therapy, how hard it's been for him. And I'm actually quite happy that going into the beginning of the video, he addresses that the fact that he will be upset could alter people's feelings about it.
I am not as strong a person as I thought I was. I thought I had a super hard exterior and interior, and that when I'm right, all I need is to be right.
Because feelings are not left out of Rhetoric. I know a lot of people, especially in the community that Jimmy is in, believe that kind of like a facts don't care about your feelings kind of aspect. That's when you're talking about subjective things or philosophy, feeling does get incorporated into that. And if you look, many different famous rhetoricians relate to this as well and explain this. Now, if we look at Jimmy in the video or in his Gabbie video as well, pathos in relation to speech, you cannot ignore emotion. Teachings of Aristotle, which are often kind of translated and altered, so I don't speak Greek. This is from my professor, Michael McDonald. Arousing the passions and emotions of the audience to persuade is obviously one of the central strategies to the art of rhetoric, and for this reason, rhetoric is bound up with psychology and the study of human character. So Jimmy's kind of actions in his first video, that tone that he had of superiority and forcefulness, are going to interact with the audience in a way that is not necessarily desirable. And that's kind of just how he has presented himself, because pathos comes in at the moment of the presentation. And then the problem is that, which was his issue when he said that it started piling on other aspects, is your ethos, which is your persona, exists beyond the speech. But the fact that the pathos opened doors for these interpretations is what led to this kind of domino effect. And rhetoric depends on shifting circumstances. Ignoring changing circumstances results in paradigms. So despite the fact that the Rachel Oates situation has developed heavily over time, Gabbie Hanna has done a lot of hateful things towards Rachel, has driven up a lot of controversy, Jimmy related it to the original situation with essentially minimal context to those things. He was saying it as exactly as it happened, and he's like, I don't care what Gabbie did, which is a problem because, like I said, if you're not adapting your circumstances, that leads to poor rhetoric. That's why I'm trying to be here right now and explain how many of my feelings have shifted from watching the I Messed Up video, because I want to adapt to the circumstances. And at the heart of rhetoric is what is called doxa. This is called your probable argument, okay? Hate will come from trying to make doxa into episteme, which is absolute knowledge, okay? Because the problem with Jimmy was he was saying, I am fundamentally right. Rachel is fundamentally wrong. There's a clear right and a clear wrong. Unfortunately, in a fallout between friends, which involving someone with an internet persona, is not absolute knowledge. You made a claim, Jimmy, that was out of pocket, and Rachel was upset. But you don't understand Rachel's interpretation through, like, her mind. You understand the interpretation through how she sent it to you over text, which is frankly a medium that is really hard to comprehend knowledge from. Like, it's not a medium that leaves for a lot of... That's why you have those cues, like those vocal cues, or... I can't remember what they're called all of a sudden. But you know, like when you kind of explain like what emotion you have going into the text message. Doxa is not episteme. Like, is that how you pronounce it? Episteme. Yeah. Because like Rachel didn't, let's say you argue that Rachel stole your iPhone. And you have a video of Rachel stealing your iPhone. That's absolute knowledge. An argument between two people off of you making a claim off of something you didn't really look into that much, that is not absolute knowledge. And you treating your initial video like it's absolute knowledge is why you're driving those types of reactions. You cannot treat something that has outside meaning and nuance like it doesn't. And this is a problem with a lot of skeptics as well, and kind of the community that he's in will kind of throw these facts in people's faces where there are a lot of nuances with them, but claim them as absolutism. And because of this kind of absolute thought, that is why a lot of people find this kind of community very narcissistic and very full of themselves, because that's how that's a very common interpretation of trying to make absolute knowledge out of something that's not necessarily absolute. The biggest issue is what's called disologoi. Okay, that's the acknowledgement of both sides of the argument. I did this in my last video, talking about how he criticizes Paul and Morgan in reference to Rachel's criticisms. People don't like disologoing often. People don't like... It's kind of like the devil's advocate type of aspect. But I'm not saying you have to agree with the other side, but you need to acknowledge it when making the argument. So Jimmy was not acknowledging Rachel's feelings really at all. He was just saying, me, this is how I feel bad. This is how it reflected upon me. You know, you're turning it on to me. This is the same thing with Gabbie Hanna, right? Like, she's talking about Jessie Smiles and her assault, but she's like, it's only about me. Doesn't think about how Jessie's approaching things, how Jessie feels about things. You need to kind of address the other person on the other side, which is why when I was talking about the atheist community in my last video, I addressed how there's a tendency to lack the autonomy of the fundamentalist Christians that make the content. Do I think that it's right to make fundamentalist Christian content that's anti-LGBTQ+, No, I don't. But I'm acknowledging that the criticism that he's approaching isn't necessarily right to address these things. Now we're going to go into the video specifically. So I just have a bunch of dot jots. But right before that, I do want to say that I did keep the podcast up, which we filmed, on July 15th. Jimmy's video came out on July 16th. I spent 14 hours editing it, and on the 13th hour, Jimmy's video came out. So I decided to keep it up. I'll link it down below. I'll put in the cards so you can see my thoughts right before the video came out and how I feel like my previous video aged versus how I was feeling at the time, and then watch it to see how you feel now. We talk about Canadian politics in the episode as well. However, there is a chapter that you can click on to go straight to the Jimmy Snow stuff if you're not interested in the previous conversation. So, I'm going to start with, because when Jimmy was talking about how he doesn't condone essay, right? And that he's not an R-word apologist. Gabbie being called that is not cult mentality, because he related to the fact that he thought bad things because he was a Mormon, right? To me, these things don't necessarily relate, and calling the hate that Gabbie's under a cult mentality or groupthink kind of attribute. He said like people like to pile on to her all the time, and I kind of pity her given that I was forced into thinking these bad things before. Saying that people dislike Gabbie Hanna because they like to pile on, and even though he said the vast majority aren't, but there are people that are obsessed with her and obsessed with degrading her, this is disregarding the reasons people don't like her and what they are pointing out. Gabbie Hanna is pushing a lot of really, really harmful narratives on people that just frankly don't deserve it. And to be like that regarding anybody, even with Disalogo and you're acknowledging the other side, you should not be saying that there's like an obsession or that there's like this like drive. And because of that, that's why you feel like you need to be friends with her, because that just doesn't really make sense. And I will say, like I said, it's good to address the feelings at the start of the video, right? And I will admit as well, I had no idea about the comments about his partner, his personal life, his therapist, and any of those kinds of things. I don't really delve into his personal life. I don't believe in mocking people. I don't believe in like kind of chipping into like punching where it hurts. That's not my, I don't want to be antagonistic in any way. I do also want to mention I did watch the first video all the way through, even though he says like nobody did. I downloaded it to like cut into the video, and then when I downloaded it, I watched it. I did watch the entire video from yesterday on YouTube on 2.2 times speed, which might sound weird, but I comprehend things better when they're faster. I don't know why. I guess it holds my attention span more. Now, here's the comment that really got to me, was that people were making videos, like small channels, to chase clout and to gain fame on his name. This is an incredibly Gabbie Hanna type of mentality, and the exact same attack that she did on Rachel Oates, which I thought was really ironic to kind of throw into people's faces. I want to say, I didn't do it to chase clout. I didn't. I actually, if you look in my, I want to say first podcast episode, I said I didn't want to make a video at all. I was like, oh, I feel like this doesn't really matter, and it's just petty, and it's kind of whatever. Like, it's not really any of my business to delve into. I got a bunch of comments and tweets, not a bunch, like 5, but on the size of my channel, that's somewhat substantial. After getting like the 4th or 5th request to make the video, I was like, let's do it. You know what, whatever. I'll get like 150 views. It's whatever. Like, I did it like a week later. I want no efforts to like, hit the algorithm or anything. I just wanted to talk about it because after rewatching his video, because I couldn't even get through it the first time because of how frustrated it made me, I was like, you know what, we're gonna get into this. It's fine, right? See, that comment though really gave me James Charles energy. That people were building their TikTok careers off of the fact that I had these allegations. People need to acknowledge beyond themselves and their own career. And he keeps telling people to like acknowledge who's behind the screen. He's not acknowledging me, someone who gained a lot of kind of views and subscribers off of that video, while telling me that I'm just trying to chase fame off of his name. That is not one of my intentions. That is not where I lie. That is not my prerogative. But then he'll go into criticize without even, because he didn't reach out to me. Because he said he reached out to creators. He didn't reach out to me. I have one of the higher, viewed videos. Mind you, I don't think it was one that was tweeted to him, but I'm not sure. But that woman that he was calling, he called her stupid. It was the one who also has autism, and she was talking about, she's a sexual survivor, not therapist, but she like helps people when they're in crisis, right? And he's just saying that like these videos are lies. Like he's pushing this again, but I think people are not going to notice that his attitude is different, and because his attitude is softer and he's obviously very distraught and upset with what's going on, that they might not see that that's the case. But getting past that, because I can only get so upset about it because, it's whatever. Like, I know it makes you butthurt when there's videos made on you. Like, if anyone ever makes a video on me, I'm sure I'll be upset about it. But it's kind of just ironic that he goes on and on and on about thinking about the person on the other side of the screen while disregarding small creators who put an effort to make these videos, where a lot of them are very well founded, well structured, well researched, but then just going like, you're just chasing clout. You cannot blame the small creators for the algorithm, especially because it appears that often YouTube pushes videos that are monetized. These videos were not even monetized for most of us. Mine's still not monetized. I don't have 1,000 subscribers as of filming this. So it's like, you're blaming these small creators for the algorithm favoring videos criticizing you, given the fact that people were upset with you, and that's just not fair. But I will say that he says I'm sitting back to be in a less defensive place. When you make a comment as brash as people are clout chasing my name, that's defensive still. And at least he does admit that his anger blocked kind of his logical capacities. Mind you, the Rachel Oates situation had been over a year ago, I think, at this point. So for him to, like, say that even that video was in anger, or perhaps, I know he's definitely talking about the tweets and the comments, there's a lack of acknowledging the responsibility beyond I talk about it with my therapist, which is a little bit unfortunate. Because, like, telling people to fuck off and, like, deleting them and blocking them because they're just like, oh my god, please log off for the day, like, your mental health, and then ridiculing people that are, you know, talking about him. So when his fans are like, I don't know what's going on, he's like, oh my god, it's such a shitstorm. Like, it's so great of you to not be in this. As if the people that are criticizing him are these forms of villains. You know? He's saying that he doesn't condone Gabbie Hanna's actions. Now, so he's saying, like, I don't condone, you know, how she treats Jessie Smiles and, like, R-word apology, stuff like that. The problem is that when you are someone with a platform representing or existing in the same space as someone else with a platform and saying publicly that you're friends with them, unfortunately, the association of the audience will be that you condone the actions of that person unless you directly condemn them and all of those actions front and forward, which he does in this video to some extent, but he keeps saying, like, well, you know, I want to help her and we have these great conversations. So he keeps backpedaling or hedging, which is when you say, I don't know, maybe, perhaps, possibly. So when you're kind of backtoeing on those arguments, that's what he's doing with Gabbie Hanna. And unfortunately, following and being friends with publicly to some extent is endorsing, and given that her actions right now frequent those types of apology, being like a R-word apologist and being like aggressive and all of these poor actions, but he's still saying I'm friends with her, I'm friends with her, I'm friends with her. That's why people are making these associations. And I do think his ego is too inflated to acknowledge that is just a fact and that's how the audience will represent it, or he just wants to deny that that's possible so he can continue to be friends with her. But as someone who's a skeptic, I just don't think that's a good way to approach things. You do need to acknowledge that people are going to have these interpretations. There are a bunch of Twitter accounts of, like, drama channels. Literally in the bio it says, like, following does not equal endorsing. Like, you have to... And that's because they're aware of those perceptions. Those perceptions are quite common online. Despite the fact that it may not necessarily apply as cleanly in real life, you have to understand the scope of the internet and the atmosphere that exists. That's kind of the problem here, right? Mind you, I like that he acknowledges how he covers things being a problem. So I think that's him kind of touching on maybe even perhaps, well, he's him touching on his content, which is kind of why I low-key think he watched my video, because as far as I've seen like 7 or 8 videos, I'm one of the only ones that like overlay 2 pieces of content, and I was like, you're ridiculing them. Like, this is how you're ridiculing them. And this is not necessarily constructive, and commenting on Rachel's, jokes and quips is not as non-constructive means your content in turn is non-constructive because it's the same format, right? So I'm happy that he acknowledges that, though I do think that these are grievances that he has dodged for a really long time. But to address them, especially when you're someone who, I will admit, he's very dedicated to his content. So when you're dedicated to your content like that, and you can take that step back, like, that's commendable, right? It's the same thing as, like, overall, I agree with a lot of the aspects of it more than you'd think. Like, I think it's very commendable as well to admit that he has to monetize the video to cover his business expenses because the production's quite large and his business has suffered. And because he put community posts out before being like, I can't stop, I can't take time off, I can't afford it. So to state that he's monetizing the video because of those issues that if you're a watcher of his, you're kind of already aware of in the back of your mind, I do think that was good. And for him to step back and kind of address some of the ego that he had built up, and to address, like, just emotion and to be real but to be composed is also commendable to me. So I agree with it a little bit more than I think or I thought I would. Mind you, there's still a little bit more ego kind of flipped into there than I would like. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to keep this a quick one because I don't want to edit anymore. So that's going to be the video. I'm not going to tag my makeup or anything. I don't feel like it. This is like concealer all over my face, melt blush light all over my face. And if anything else you want me to cover, comment down below or tweet me, which will also, my Twitter will be tagged down below. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Yay. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who's here. And I just, like I said, felt like I needed to address this given how it has affected me in the YouTube sphere as a person. And that and that I feel like if I ignored it, that would be kind of dodging my own little drama in a way, right? Even though it is not about me at all. But given that Jimmy made a direct comment about small channels making videos and blowing up from those videos, I feel like it is very fair for me to come forward and address things. Yeah, hopefully we have a community tab soon. Okay, you guys have a great day wherever you are, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.